official legend does not fit with reality. So I had the very first chapter is on the identities of the 19 suspected hijackers that are totally uncleared until today. The names and the pictures of these guys appeared 48 hours after the attacks, but since no more real information on these suspected hijackers appeared. After they were named on this suspected, 6 people turned up saying, hey, there must be a mistake. I was not in the US at September 11th. I did my job here in Saudi Arabia. How does it come that I appear now on this suspect list? And I focused on this question in the first chapter of the book, and I found that the identity of these 19 until today is still unclear and unsolved. The official version is, yes, there were some difficulties in the very beginning, but the FBI published a corrected list on September 27th, and since then everything is cleared up. This is the official version, but if you look today, after nearly 3 years, you still find that there are reasonable doubts on the identity of these men. If the FBI really knows who the people are, what cars they rented, what hotels they frequented, what bars they visited in the days before, as it does. The FBI is telling us they know what they did before. So there should be a possibility to identify these dead people. And that has not been done until yet. And this shows me very clear that there must be something wrong with the identity of these 19 guys. If they really were those fundamentalist Islamistic terrorists, we would have seen a very hard investigation, prosecution, and we would know today everything of their individual life, not only in the days before, but in the weeks and in the months before. And if you look what we really know, there are some information that some of these guys were at the Hamburg University and used to live there, but that's it. If you look at the 19, you see about half of them we know nothing at all, and about the other half we know a lot, but what we know on them is not convincing that these guys were terrorists. For me, it's more convincing that they were a kind of agents. They were allowed to move freely in the US, out of the US, into the US. They were allowed to make these training lessons. The FBI field agents who were behind them, they were stopped to investigate. So these guys must have had some protection from above. The official legend must be untrue. If it were true, we would have seen a court case clearing all this up. And my suspicion is that there is something behind that is the reason for the cover-up. And what is behind, in my opinion, is a drug and money laundering operation in which Mohammed Atta and these guys were involved. That was the reason why they were protected not because they are Islamistic fundamentalists planning a terrorist attack. This was not the reason why they could move so freely, but because they were agents in a clandestine illegal business which was protected by the CIA, like in the Iran-Contra case. And this was the reason why they could move so freely and were not prosecuted in the US before. And this is also the reason why nobody is now looking close into these individuals and into the flight school they trained in Florida, into their owners, which are very, very dubious, and so on. This might be not the only reason why there is no investigation, but in my opinion, and after 2.5 years looking into the case, I suggest that this is one of the main reasons why there is no investigation.
Why would they use such compromised people? If they're trying to pin it on Osama?
I don't know. I have no idea. I think meanwhile, I'm not even convinced that they were on the planes. There is the original passenger lists. Nobody has seen. There is no video evidence that they were at the Boston airport. There is no fingerprints on the boarding cards, no nothing at all showing that these guys really went into these planes and were able, with their box cutters, simultaneously to hijack 4 planes. And why they were used as patsies, I don't know who chose them, but I think they were in a way connected with Osama bin Laden, not because they were terrorists, but because they were agents in the drug business. Osama bin Laden was from 96 on in control of 80% of the world opium supply. He was the chief of Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is the country where the most opium heroin is produced. So I think there must be some business connections, which and one end of the business chain is in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the other end of the business chain is in Florida and the US. And in this field, these Mohammed Atta and these guys were active. I still do not know how it in detail was planned and worked out. But for me, there is no real reason for the US administration not to investigate this. At the first hand, you could think, okay, they do not investigate because they want to earn the blame for not secure the United States, stuff like that. But after 2.5 years, this argument doesn't fit anymore for me, because there would be some real hard facts on every of these 19 guys, that they were terrorists, that they were trained in Afghanistan, that they did this and that and that. But there is, if you look, there is nothing. We know from Atta, from Al-Shehi, from Al-Mitar, and 2 or 3 others, we know something. But of all of the rest, we know nothing. And why is there not an investigation? Because there is a reason not to investigate. And what is this reason? It is not, in my opinion, the business of the Bush family with the Saudis. because if this would be so, the Democratic Party would have made this a partisan issue. So there must be a kind of business where both parties, in a way, are involved or profit from. Like it was with the Iran-Contra case. There were Democrats and Republicans being feeded out of this business. And this seems to me the same now. In his famous cave parable, Plato is comparing the way we perceive and the way we see the world with people who are chained in a cave, and in their backward there is a fire, and some materials are throwing shadows to the wall, and everything these chained people in the cave can see are these shadows, and they keep these shadows for the whole reality. And then Platon asks what would happen if someone is unchained and could turn around and see the fire and see the materials there which throwing the shadows. He wouldn't understand it first. And if he would come out of the cave, he would see nothing. He would be dazzled by the light. And after a time of adjusting and becoming familiar with this new world, he would be able to perceive the reality of the sun and of the landscape and of the seasons and stuff like that. And then Platon is asking what would happen if this man would now go down again to his companions in the chain, telling them about the truth outside. They wouldn't believe him. And if he would try to unchain them and bring them up, they would, if they could get hold of him, they would kill him, because they could not stand this unbelievable truth. And I compared in my lecture this parable with our situation in the information age. We are chained in a cave, not with shadow plays, but with multimedia displays on the walls, and we see it and we take this as the only truthful reality. And people who are looking around or who are able to fly out of the cave and see the whole world, they becoming an object of mockery and scoff if they come back, because it's unbelievable what they are telling. I choose this example to show not only the problems of the fools down in the cave, but also the problems of the fools out, because if we look at these very complex case of 9/11, which has so many details and facets and stuff like that, we are very endangered to fall into a kind of self-delusion, not to be a real objective detective gathering every fact he finds, but always in danger to be led by our own theories and our own prejudices, that we have a lot of problems if we look at the data of, let's say, the Pentagon, or let's say the missiles beneath the Boeings and stuff like that. We have to accept in my opinion, every fact which appears, and not and to try not to perceive reality in a tunnel. It might be nice to kick out Mr. Bush out of his office. I would love it, but this will not solve the 9/11 case. So we should not use 9/11 to kick Bush out of office. We should solve 9/11, and then Bush will go by himself, you know. If we come to discuss the truth of 9/11, we must be careful that we are not doing the same propaganda like the brainwashers in Washington do, only from the opposite side. I have talked to a lot of people, yes, they are 100% convinced, they did it. But this will not help to solve the case. We have to keep, in my opinion, we have to do the first step first. And this means to try to indict these 19 suspects, like Jim Garrison in the JFK case did it 30 years before. We need some courageous general attorney who brings the 19 suspects to court. If not, the whole case of 9/11 never will be solved, because if we only have some hearsay that these 19 guys might have done it, and this is going into the history books, this is incredible. We must prevent this. We must try everything we can to bring the people who conducted this terrible attack to court. If we have no court case, we have no responsibility. We have no one punished. And at the moment it is so. We have no one, no political, no secret agent, no CIA, no military man, nobody at all who is in any way or any kind responsible. And what the 9/11 Commission is doing is not to look how could 9/11 happen and who has done it, but how can we prevent it in the future? So they take the 19 hijackers and the suspects as a fact, as history already, and they look into the future. Yesterday or 2 days before, I heard some politician saying, yes, we should not blame anyone for 9/11. We should work that this never happens. This is incredible, I think. We have to solve this case, and we have to bring the people who are guilty to justice, and not to look into the future and saying, yes, we have to prevent it for the future. If we do not find the real perpetrators, the real people who did this, we will not be able to prevent anything like this in the future. And this is the brainwashing operation ongoing to say to the people, yes, we have to prevent it to the future, but don't look us into the past. This has happened. Nobody could have prevented it. No one is responsible. No, it's not the CIA, not the military, not the government, and that's it. And my work, and I think the work of all the people here speaking at this conference, is to not let them come through with this. This parable generally is interpreted as an example for what is called Plato's idealism, that there is a material world and there is an ideal world. And that is very difficult for anyone who has perceived something of the ideal world to communicate it to the material world. So I took this example and for the reason to make clear, on the one hand, that we are, as inmates of the media cave, we depend on the information coming out of the TV channels. We might know that this is not the truth, but in general we forget, and we take this as the reality and as the truth what is coming out of the media.
Attacks equal to or greater than those that occurred on September 11th.
And the people who are critical or skeptical on this cognition, and these people I compared with the one who came out of the cave and see that the reality is much more than what is shown on the screens down below. And if anyone like me and others who went to research and investigate 9/11 and tried not to take this TV screen as the reality, they face the same problem as the guy in Platon's story who wants to come back and to liberate his companions down there, saying, hey, you are brainwashed, this is all untrue, and so. And what I and a lot of researchers experienced in the past is that we were beaten by the press, by the mass media, and by the mainstream TV channels, telling lies, telling conspiracy theories, telling bullshit at all. And this is comparable to the situation in the old Greek caves. And I do not go with Plato so far as he said it's impossible to write on this. Plato had the strong belief that you cannot communicate properly if you write books. He said to communicate properly with the people who do not know what the one knows who was outside, the only way is a personal way. You can do it by talk, and you can do it by your personal life. You can show, but you cannot communicate it by writing. We have the possibility with writing, with radio, with media, if we avoid the gatekeepers of the mainstream and do our own distribution of information, we will be able to communicate, and we will be able to make a difference. It's not useless what we are doing. It's our task to repeat it over and over and over again to the people down in the cave. And these people, let's say these are the regular TV public and newspaper readers and so. And if you look at the polls in Germany and also here in Canada, we see that the majority of the people is not convinced at all with the official version. The people feel that they have been lied. They feel that the American administration is not telling the truth, and every day with Iraq and with the war going on, and so they feel it even more. And so we have a huge majority of the regular normal people behind us, I think. They do not trust the politicians and the Bush regime anymore. And this is a huge advantage for us. If I would haven't had any internet connection, I wouldn't be able to have been able to come out the cave. So the internet is a very good tool for us. But we have to reach the step into the mainstream media, into the printed media, and into the television, because only 10 or 20% of the people rely on the internet, and all the rest is still on the traditional media. And so we have to convince our colleagues there that we didn't do bad research, but the opposite. We did good research, and we raise questions which are very, very important, not only for our personal future, but for the future of the whole planet.
911, look through the lights. The war on terror is alive. 911.
Heisenberg and Einstein had a lot of discussions in the 1920s on the perception and cognition of the quantum world, because Heisenberg said, and Einstein avoided to follow him, that always the observer is deciding what reality becomes manifest. That there is no reality in the quantum world, that there are only possibility clouds, and in the moment the observer comes in, then he is deciding what becomes reality. And Einstein didn't follow this and said, no, this is not possible. God doesn't play dice, his famous quote. We must be clear on our own role as observers. Everyone who's observing the case of 9/11 has his own history, has his own imagination of how politics and reality and everything should be. And so his view on the case is filled with possible prejudices and possible failures, which might prevent a objective view of the thing. And I choose this example to make clear for us, for the community who's researching the case, that we must not be so self-certain that we are now the holders of the truth. And even if we have found some very important particles, nobody of us is able to know the truth at the moment. It's this uncertainty principle in my lecture to make clear we have a huge and complex case, and we tend to not perceive data which is not coherent with our views. And that it's important, if we really want to clear the case, that every data comes onto the table. And then we take every piece and look and say, is this fact or is this rumor? And but not going beforehand and putting out this and putting out that and only have this data which fit into our theories. This would be the wrong way. There were German intelligence, there were American intelligence, and there were Israeli intelligence behind these 19. The story which came out on the very first day, that 4,000 Jews didn't come to work in the World Trade Center, that this is a classical red herring, disinformation put it out in the internet to provoke these anti-Semitic stuff, which worked perfectly. All in the Arabic world, you hear this story of the 4,000 Jews not coming to work. If you go to Egypt or to every other country, you will hear this story everywhere. I wrote what I've said now. I wrote in my book that I'm very critical on this thesis, and I think this is done by a secret service to provoke this hysteria. And the German media, they turned it around and said, Mr. Broeckers is telling the story that 4,000 Jews did not come to work. I sued one television magazine for these allegations because it's totally wrong. I wrote the opposite. And they tried to smear me as an anti-Jewish, typical German Nazi. And this is a way how they try to diminish and to shut up critical voices. Also Andreas von Bulow, who's a former secretary of the Social Democratic government, he was also blamed as an anti-Semitic guy. This is the worst you can get in Germany, yeah. And but I sued one magazine and I was successful, and so meanwhile. The media is quiet on this. They tried it, but not with me. You become an object of mockery and scoff, and if they get you, they beat you to death. Yeah, and this is always the messenger is killed because of his unbearable or unbelievable message. Andreas von Bulow, Gerhard Wisniewski, which did books in Germany, we all received the same blame. Since the majority of the people does believe what we were saying, this is not because we are so perfect keepers of the truth. This is mainly because the administration and the mainstream media is telling the same lie day after day after day after day, and the people feel it. The people, they have strong feelings, and they know when they are lied. And that's why people like me are so much hurt, and our books become huge bestsellers. And guys like Michael Moore are in Germany heroes meanwhile. Yeah? I think Michael Moore sold more books in Germany than in the US.